In the middle of the Colorado desert stands a fortress built to do one thing: erase human connection. No riots, no escapes, no second chances. They call it the Alcatraz of the Rockies. But to the men inside, it's something far darker. Imagine spending 23 hours a day locked in a concrete box. No sunlight, no sound, no touch. Your meals slide through a slot. Your voice echoes back at you, and your mind begins to eat itself alive. Welcome to ADX Florence, the world's most secure prison. For the next 24 hours, we're taking you inside. Inside the walls no camera is allowed to film. Inside the routines of killers, terrorists, and men society has chosen to forget. And inside the minds of those who built it and those who broke beneath it. Intro, the desert fortress. From above, ADX Florence looks deceptively small. A geometric maze of concrete and razor wire. Hidden within the barren plains of Fremont County, Colorado. There are no guard towers, no visible guard with rifles. Because here, the architecture itself is the weapon. Every wall, every corner, every sight line is designed to contain not just bodies, but minds. Opened in 1994, ADX was the government's answer to chaos. The Supermax, built after decades of bloodshed in federal prisons across America. Each cell is a 7 by 12-foot tomb, poured concrete, stainless steel toilet, a slit of a window facing the sky. That's it. No view, no horizon, just sky. A reminder that freedom is somewhere out there, but never here. For the men inside, time moves differently. A day feels like a week, a year like forever. And that's the point. ADX wasn't built to punish the body. It was built to break the mind. Over the next 24 hours, you'll see what happens when a man is stripped of everything, when isolation becomes a weapon, and survival means more than staying alive. This is 24 hours inside the world's most secure prison, before we step inside the walls of ADX Florence, a place built to contain the world's most dangerous men. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story that takes you deep inside the world's toughest prisons. Now take a deep breath, because once that door locks behind you, there's no way out. The wake-up call. It's 6 a.m, and inside ADX Florence, another day begins. Though it's hard to call it living. There's no alarm clock here. No sunlight breaking through curtains. Just the cold hum of electricity and the metallic echo of the ventilation system. Every inmate wakes the same way, to the sound of silence. A corrections officer moves down the hall, sliding meal trays through narrow steel slots, each one marked by a small clang, each tray disappearing into a different world. Inside, the inmates rise from thin concrete slabs that double as beds, stretch their legs in a space smaller than most closets, and stare at the same walls they've seen for years. Gray, featureless, eternal. Their windows are just 4 inches wide, angled so they can see only a sliver of the sky. Never another human being. For some, this is year 10. For others, year 20. Days blur together. There's no dawn or dusk, only time itself, stretching endlessly. In this place, the mind becomes your only companion and your worst enemy. Breakfast in isolation. Breakfast is identical every morning. Powdered eggs, oatmeal, milk in a carton. There's no cafeteria, no conversation. Meals are eaten alone, knees pulled close, on a stainless steel stool bolted to the floor. Some inmates pace as they eat, 10 steps forward, 10 steps back, over and over, until the sound of their own footsteps becomes a rhythm of survival. Others sit motionless, staring at the food, not eating at all. Because here, hunger isn't always for food. It's for sound, for touch, for anything that reminds them they still exist. In ADX, even eye contact is a privilege. Guards move like ghosts behind reinforced glass. Silent, efficient, unapproachable. Every movement, every glance, is controlled by security protocols so strict that even the guards barely see the prisoners face to face. Each cell has a small intercom button, but Pressing it rarely helps. By the time an officer responds, the inmate's question, or his hope, is usually gone. The routine of control. At 8 a.m. sharp, the routine begins. Cells unlocked, remotely not for freedom, but for inspection. Guards in black tactical uniforms pass by each cell, accompanied by the ever-present hum of cameras and body mics. No words exchanged, no eye contact, just a checklist, a ritual of control, repeated every single morning. ADX was engineered with indirect supervision, which means no guard ever enters a cell block alone. No inmate ever walks unshackled, and every encounter happens through steel and bulletproof glass. Here, a simple movement, like changing sheets or picking up a magazine, can take weeks of approval. Every privilege is a reward. Every mistake, a punishment. They call it behavioral management. But to the men inside, it feels more like psychological decay. Exercise in a box. Exercise at ADX isn't a gym. It's a concrete cage the size of a single-car garage. Each inmate gets 1 hour a day, alone, in what the Bureau of Prisons calls recreation. There's no grass, no horizon, only concrete walls and a steel grate above, through which they can glimpse a patch of sky, and if they're lucky, a passing cloud. Some stretch, some jog in circles until their breath burns. Others lie flat on the ground, just to feel the faint warmth of sunlight on their skin. It's the only time they can feel the outside air, the only moment they can remind themselves that a world still exists beyond these walls. But even that is controlled, every movement recorded, every second monitored, and when that hour ends, they return to their box, back to silence, back to themselves. The psychology of isolation. 10 in the morning. The silence inside ADX Florence isn't peaceful. It's weaponized. Every noise a cough, a shoe scraping concrete, a whisper to the vent becomes magnified 1,000 times. Some inmates start talking to themselves. Others hum, just to hear a sound that isn't the air conditioner. Inside these concrete boxes, the mind begins to split itself into company. Psychologists call it sensory deprivation, a condition where the brain, starved of input, starts inventing its own. Men begin hearing music that doesn't exist, footsteps that never approach, voices whispering from the corners of their cells. And sometimes the voice sounds familiar, their mother, their child, their past self, asking, "Do you still remember me?" ADX doesn't need whips or chains. It uses silence as its punishment, and for many, it works better than pain ever could. This is the hour when men begin to unravel, and there's still 14 hours left in the day. The architect's intention. When ADX Florence was first designed, its creators believed it would be the ultimate solution, a place for inmates too violent, too unpredictable, or too notorious for any other prison. The layout was inspired by military bunkers. Each wing isolated, each cell its own world. Even the walls are angled, so no two inmates can ever see each other, not even by accident. It's control by geometry, punishment by design. Architects called it a clean system. Psychologists called it a human experiment, and the guards called it necessary. But behind the efficiency, behind the layers of steel and surveillance, was a question no one wanted to answer. How long could a man survive without being seen? 12 p.m., lunch with ghosts. At noon, lunch arrives. A paper bag through the slot. Usually a sandwich, a piece of fruit, and a cookie sealed in plastic. No conversation. No human faces. Just the same motion. The same sound. Day after day. Some inmates use the plumbing system to talk. Flushing water in rhythm. Tapping messages through pipes. It's the ADX version of communication, a language of desperation. Others write letters to people they'll never meet again. They fold them carefully, address them neatly, and wait weeks for a reply that may never come. For them, the world outside is a rumor, a faint memory of color, sound, and touch. They eat quickly, not out of hunger, but because the silence feels heavier when the chewing stops. 1 p.m., the ones who never left. Not everyone who comes to ADX leaves. Some men die here, not by violence, but by slow erosion of the mind. Names like Theodore Kaczynski, the Unabomber, Ramzi Youssef, the 1993 World Trade Center bomber, Richard Reed, the shoe bomber, each locked in isolation, each living their own private version of eternity. Inmates who've served decades here describe seeing hallucinations, walls that pulse, lights that hum in coded patterns, shadows that move when nothing else does. Some smear messages on their walls with toothpaste. Still human, still here. And even those who manage to survive leave different. Their speech changes. Their posture bends inward. They flinch at open space. The same way a caged bird fears the sky. Because after years in a box, freedom doesn't feel like release. It feels like vertigo. 2 p.m., the guard's burden. Every hour at ADX Florence runs like a machine. But even machines have limits. And so do the men who run them. The guards who work here call it the clean hell. There are no riots, no chaos, no fights. Just endless control, endless silence. They move through hallways where voices are forbidden, where every camera sees but nothing blinks. They memorize routines, count, record, report, until they start feeling like inmates themselves. Many last less than 5 years before requesting a transfer. Some develop insomnia. Others begin avoiding eye contact outside the prison, as if they're still being watched. They say it's not the violence that haunts them. It's the silence, even in the break rooms. No one laughs, because everyone knows. One mistake, one breach of protocol, and this calm machine becomes chaos. For both sides of the bars, ADX doesn't forgive weakness. 3 p.m., the human experiment. When the Department of Justice built ADX, they called it a behavioral laboratory. Every inch of its design, from the 12-inch slit windows to the muffled echo-proof walls, was created to test a theory. That complete isolation could reshape human behavior. You control the environment, you control the man. But what happens when that environment destroys him instead? Psychiatrists who studied ADX inmates found staggering numbers. Over half suffer severe depression. 1 in 4 develops hallucinations or psychosis. And dozens have attempted suicide, not from guilt, but from emptiness. A letter from an inmate reads, "The walls talk louder than people. I count the cracks. I name the shadows. I haven't seen a tree in 10 years. It's no longer a theory. It's a warning, one the system chose to ignore. 4 p.m., a world within walls. 4 o'clock, movement hour. Inside ADX, movement doesn't mean freedom. It means containment in motion. Each inmate is escorted by 2 guards and a camera, hands shackled, waist chained, feet dragging steel cuffs that clink against the floor. They're led to shower rooms, stainless steel boxes with perforated holes in the door. 5 minutes. Then back to the cell. No contact, no shared space, only the constant awareness of being watched. One guard once said, "It's like moving ghosts from one cage to another." The system is precise, efficient, and absolutely soul-crushing. Even a minor infraction, a word, a look, a refusal to obey, can cost an inmate months of privilege, like a book or a single phone call. In this place, mercy doesn't exist, only procedure. 5 p.m., the warden's eyes. High above the maze of cell blocks, the warden's office watches everything. Monitors flicker with black and white feeds. Hundreds of cameras capturing every inch of concrete, every blink, every breath. To the warden, it's order. To everyone else, it's surveillance without end. Former wardens describe it as a necessary evil. But behind closed doors, even they admit, the place changes people. One retired official confessed, "You don't realize it until you leave. The quiet gets inside you. You start missing control." Inside ADX, everyone is being watched, including the watchers. 6 p.m., the descent into night. As daylight disappears over Colorado desert, ADX Florence becomes something different. The corridors fall silent. The last guard rotations settle into position, and every sound grows sharper. Every creak, every breath, every heartbeat amplified by the concrete walls. Inside, prisoners begin their nightly rituals. Some whisper prayers. Others count tiles. A few pace endlessly. 10 steps forward, 10 steps back. Try to exhaust themselves into sleep. But for most, sleep never comes. In the distance, muffled screams echo through the vents. A man somewhere in another block, screaming names that don't exist anymore. He's answered by another voice, then another, until the entire unit hums with madness. It's a chorus the guards call the night music, a sound that never makes it past the walls. They don't intervene. They just listen, because at ADX it's normal, and that's the most terrifying part. Night is when the prison breathes, when the human mind, stripped of light, turns inward and devours itself. 8 p.m., the cell that thinks. By 8 o'clock, most cells have gone quiet, but not all. Some inmates report seeing shapes in the darkness, walls shifting, ceilings bending, the sensation that their cells are breathing. Doctors call it hypervigilance, a symptom of prolonged isolation. The brain, desperate for stimulation, starts mistaking stillness for movement, silence for presence. One former inmate wrote, "At night, the room talks. The air changes. You can feel it thinking." They scratch messages into concrete, small words hidden near the floor. Still alive. Don't forget me. No one ever reads them. But writing them means they still exist. Because in ADX, memory is rebellion. 10 p.m., the ghost shift. By 10, the night shift takes over. A skeleton crew of guards moving through dim corridors lit by cold blue lights. They call it the ghost shift. Every footstep echoes for miles. Every motion caught on camera, but it feels like no one else exists. Guard describes seeing shadows move where no one walks. Hearing doors creak that were never opened. Most shrug it off, a trick of exhaustion. Others just stop talking about it. Because if you admit you're hearing things here, you don't stay long. The cameras record everything, but not the feeling, not the weight pressing on your chest. As you walk alone through a corridor filled with invisible eyes. For the inmates, this hour feels like eternity. For the guards, it feels like staring into a mirror and seeing the same cage reflected back. 12 a.m., the edge of sanity. Midnight, the line between reality and hallucination begins to blur. For the inmates, it's been 18 hours of silence. For the guards, 18 hours of containment. Somewhere down D-Unit, an inmate begins reciting entire books from memory, page by page, line by line, just to hear his own voice again. Another laughs uncontrollably. Another weeps without sound. The human brain wasn't designed for this. No contact, no color, no change, just endless gray. Doctors who've studied supermax inmates say the effects mimic traumatic brain injury, cognitive decline, hallucinations, and irreversible psychological damage. Inmates describe time melting, memories looping, reality folding inward like a hallway with no doors. And yet, the system keeps running. Every lock, every door, every light flicker exactly as designed. ADX doesn't care who breaks first. It just keeps counting the hours. 3 a.m., the ones who talk to God. 3 in the morning. For most of the world, this is the hour of sleep. But inside ADX Florence, it's the hour when men start talking to God. Some pray out loud, their voices trembling through the ventilation system, echoing into other cells like distant confessions. Others sit motionless on their beds, eyes closed, try to remember the faces of the people they once loved. And some say they hear voices answer back, a voice forgiving them, a voice damning them, a voice that sounds just like their own. In ADX, belief takes strange shapes. It becomes both a shield and a weapon. Faith becomes a way to keep the mind alive, or to surrender completely. One inmate wrote, "At night, God comes to my cell. Sometimes he forgives me. Sometimes he screams. Inside these walls, redemption and insanity can sound exactly the same. 4 a.m., the memory hour. 4 a.m., the body wants to sleep, but the mind refuses. This is the hour of memories, the most dangerous time in ADX. Deprived of stimulation, the human brain digs into the past for something. Anything to feel. A terrorist relives the sound of his last explosion. A hitman sees the faces of his victims. A bank robber smells the gasoline from the getaway car. Each memory comes with pain, because memory is the only visitor allowed here. Many inmates beg for TV privileges, books, even old newspapers, not for entertainment, but to anchor themselves to the present. Without them, time fractures, reality loops. Yesterday and 10 years ago start to look the same. This is how ADX eats its prisoners. Not quickly, but thought by thought. 5 a.m., the false dawn. At 5 a.m., the fluorescent lights flicker on. The night is over, but it doesn't feel like morning. For the men inside, it's just another rotation of the clock. The same walls, the same air, the same nothing. Guards begin their morning rounds. Voices echoing through intercoms. Orders given, no response is heard. In one cell, an inmate is already awake, sitting perfectly still, staring at the slot in the door as if expecting someone. He's been waiting for this hour, not for food, not for release, just for proof that time is still moving. He whispers to himself, "It's still today." Because in ADX, that's the only way to tell you survived the night. 6 a.m., the new day begins. 24 hours. That's one day inside the world's most secure prison. For the outside world, it's nothing. For the men inside, it's everything. They'll repeat it again tomorrow. And the next day, and the next. The system will keep running. Unseen, unchallenged. A perfect cycle of order and oblivion. But behind the statistics, behind the reinforced concrete and federal protocol, there's something else buried deep in the silence. The sound of mind trying not to disappear. This isn't punishment. This is erasure. And yet, the walls still stand. The lights still hum. And somewhere in the desert, ADX Florence begins another day. Because the truth is, some prisons don't need bars. They just need silence. The prison that outlives its men. In a world obsessed with freedom, there exists a place built to erase it completely. A place that doesn't kill you outright. It just watches you disappear. ADX Florence was meant to keep America safe. But along the way, it revealed something darker. That control can become cruelty, and silence can scream louder than violence ever could. 24 hours here is enough to understand why men break. Why even guards leave with nightmares they never talk about. Why some who survive ADX never really leave behind. They walk differently. They speak softly. They look at walls as if they still expect them to talk back. And so the fortress stands, a monument to human control and human fragility. Behind those concrete layers are stories we'll never fully hear. Letters that never left. Confessions whispered to the dark. Dreams of sunlight that never came. Maybe that's the real sentence of ADX Florence. Not life without parole, but life without being heard. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe the truth inside these walls deserves to be told, then help us keep digging. Like, share and subscribe to Blood and Justice. Because every time a door closes, a story gets buried, and we're here to open again. Some walls are built to keep people in. Others to keep the truth out. Inside ADX Florence, freedom isn't taken, it's forgotten. And every man inside is left alone with only his thoughts and his ghosts. If stories like this move you, if you believe the truth behind these walls should never be buried, then like this video, share it with someone, and subscribe to Blood and Justice for more untold stories from the world's toughest prisons. Until next time, stay free.